Hi, so it's Aten-Ra. I'm back, ready to do my second video or vlog, I think they're calling them now. So I want this to be a book review, and I want to explore books and ideas that are a little bit off the beaten path, and maybe expose you to some information that you hadn't otherwise been exposed to. The first book that I want to review is called Women of Light, The New Sacred Prostitute. Oh yeah, we're going in. So I know this may be a little bit unorthodox for someone to talk about a book like this, but honestly, this book is completely amazing. I kind of ran up on it. Well, I didn't kind of run up on it. I was in my local metaphysical bookstore and just meandering around because that's what I like to do. And I saw this book and I saw this picture, and I had seen this picture before. And a lot of you ladies, if you work with yoni eggs or anything like that, if you studied any of the mysteries of the Magdalene, you've seen this picture. And it caught my eye because, I read the Da Vinci Code. I work with yoni eggs. I'm into sacred sexuality. It's like, oh, a sacred prostitute. What? Because in our society, we don't have sacred prostitutes. We, have women who have sex with their boyfriends and their lovers. We have wives. We have hookers. And we probably have some people who do it in private, but how how are we doing this? I mean, this was a very powerful archetype in ancient times, the sacred prostitute. She was the woman who was able to take men who'd come from war or who were injured or who society didn't want and make them feel whole again. With prostitution being illegal, and I understand it being illegal, there's some really awful things that go on out there, but I do believe that consenting adults should be allowed to do what consenting adults do. But with this aspect of sexuality being not present, how are these needs being taken care of? So, what the editor does, Kenneth J. Stubbs, is he has 9 different women and different ways. And of course, the easiest one, the obvious one, is the porn star. But then he went into sex surrogate, which I found that fascinating because I watch, documentaries about sex surrogate, which there aren't very many now because they're still trying to say that it's just regular prostitution when it's not. These women are psychologists and they're professionals and they're trained, and it helps people get in touch with their sexuality. The meditation teacher, group sex hostess. I didn't see that one coming myself. The artist, the masseuse, massage therapist. I hate the word masseuse. The call girl, the firewoman, and the nurse. And what was interesting is that each one of these women was deeply spiritual. They saw what they were doing as a sacred calling. They were doing this because sexuality needs to be a part of mainstream society, and some people aren't able to experience sexuality. Uh, Case in point, we just had a young man go on a shooting rampage because he couldn't find, basically, women didn't respond to him. Maybe if something like that had been in place in our society, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that that's the reason. I mean, obviously, he has some deep psychological issues, and I know that his parents and the school tried to get him help and to no avail, but maybe if something like this had been in place, maybe this is something that we could have avoided. Maybe the psyche needs healing, male and female. One of the stories that really struck me was actually the last story. I enjoyed all of them because, like I said, each of these women was deeply spiritual and she understood what she was doing with her body and what she was doing for the people that she was working with. But the last one was the nurse, and she was a nurse who basically dealt with people, handicapped people, quadriplegics, which is a word I can't say, and I didn't want to say it, but and she was dealing with, her name was Catherine, and she was dealing with a man named Johnny who had been in a car accident when he was 18 and had been paralyzed from the neck down since he was 18, and he was in his 40s, and his family had died off, so he didn't have anyone to come and visit him. The only people he had were his caregivers in the hospital. So obviously at 18, he didn't have any sexual experience at the time that this book was written. It's probably back in the 50s or the 40s. And the nurse basically helped him, and it's not disgusting or anything what you think, but basically she helped him understand what sensuality was by the experiences that he was having, like food, how a berry feels going down your throat, how it tastes, how water feels. And she basically led him through a series of meditations that allowed him to have experiences that he wouldn't have had. When I read that, I actually cried because it was amazing to be able to give that gift to someone. And he actually died shortly afterwards. So he was able to have an experience that normally he probably would have just died alone and not have had this experience. So I do recommend this book if you are interested in sacred sexuality, if you are interested in how to redefine your sexuality so that you may use it for healing. Just to give you some ideas: Women of the Light, The New Sacred Prostitute. And even if you're not open to it, maybe you should read it anyway, because like I said, when I bought it, I was curious, but I was a little like, yeah, okay. And when I got into it, I was like, whoa, like, there were no other words except whoa. It totally changed how I look at sexuality. So that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave comments below because I would love to dialogue with you about this. And let's build. Let's break down some of these barriers. Namaste.